You have entered into the black hole of real estate, a place for industry news, tips, and strategies. Once you enter into our vortex, even if you could leave, you're probably going to want to stick around. I'm your host, Ron Weiss-Sikarski, and you are now entering the black hole of real estate.
Well, it's exciting to be back with you to talk about real estate and some of the things going on in the business world that relate to the real estate business. Today, I am looking at some condo sales numbers that I'm pretty excited about in the Daytona Beach and surrounding areas. And I thought that might be something great to lead off with today. There's also the foreclosure ban thing that's just not easy, but I want to talk about that today. I know there's good reasons to have it, but boy, I got to tell you, there's something on the other side that's not so nice. And then SBA loans. If you were the beneficiary of an SBA loan and you're able to use it, fantastic. But what? What if you couldn't use the money for the intended purposes of the guidelines and you had to pay it back or wanted to pay it back? What would you do there? We'll talk about that at the end. So, today, condo sales, hey guys, guess what? They're up. And that's been the story for better than a year right now. And that's an exciting piece. Everybody's worried about inventory along with that. So let me start with the inventory first. We'll do it backwards today. So available inventory is up in July. These are the numbers we're looking at. And it's 471 were available during the market compared to 450 in June. So it's up. That's about 5%. We said the inventory would start to trickle up a little bit. Now, if you want to compare it back to last year in July when we're just in gridlock and not a lot moving because of, the one lockdown we did in Florida, that was quite a bit higher back then. It was almost 1,000. It was in the 900 range. And so we're still, quite a bit off of last year's inventory, but we are starting to ascend in the number of condos available by 5%. And I would expect to see this as we continue each month towards the end of the year. Now, if you're looking at the number of condos sold, well, hey, 199 in this month of July 2021. So what one we just finished, compared to last year's 192, and there was probably 2 or 3 months of pent-up sales that were just held in gridlock. We sold exactly 2 more than June of 2021. So sales up just a little bit. The median sales price, which is something we want to look like, it's not the middle, it's just the middle sale. That's the median. And it was at 279.9. Great month for that. Last year at this time, it was 243 and change. And even in June, just a month ago, 255. Now, some of that will always be predicated on whether it was direct ocean front, if there's a lot of those sales, or maybe side views versus street views. But overall, apples to apples, this is a really strong month. We held the line on the numbers sold. The median went up a little bit, and the inventory went up a little bit. I mean, that's the trifecta we've been looking for. Now, when we look at the year-to-date sales, in this year of 21, 1,404 sales compared to the same time period last year, 892. Big increase. We know some of the reasons for it, but it's still a big increase. Median sales price last year was 219 and change. This year, 260. So those are things that are fun to watch and good to look at. There was a couple of sales in the $1 million range in this market. 3 or 4 of them above the 800 level. So those are good, strong sales for this area. And, of the mix, I would say the vast majority of the sales were condos versus condo-tels. Condo-tel, just think of that as a hotel room-sized property, either an efficiency within a building. It's really just like buying a hotel room within a condo building. Instead of renting it, you own it, and then you get to rent it out to other people if you want. And it was about 30 of those sales out of the 199 last month. So condo-tel sales were pretty strong. The regular condos were strong. Overall, just a glowing report for Daytona Beach area condos. And what's not to get excited about that? It's mirroring what's going on in the single-family home market. I don't know that we're going to pause this year. Maybe historically, August has always been the busiest month. September, kind of the quieter month of the year, if you will. But right now, the pending sales appear that August numbers are going to be good. We'll see. And it might balance out that I also see some really good things for September. And that's, your condo sales report, like in a wrap, really fast, rapid pace. but good stuff going on. Now, let me move over to the foreclosure ban. Look, and I get it. There's a foreclosure ban to help people out affected by COVID. But come on. Is this actually something that's still lingering from 16, 18 months ago that everybody needs to be bailed out on things here? Because paying your rent, there's money coming in. We've had all this unemployment money and all this free money here, free money there. There's some really bad stories coming out of this. Now, I am all for somebody's in a hardship situation that needs the money, but I think there needs to be some evidence that you need the money after 18 months, to do that and not be evicted. There's always a reason to not pay your rent. Some legit, some not legit. But the eviction bans are, oof. There are real stories of landlords not getting their $2,000 a month or their $1,000 a month or something in between. And there are stories of the very same renters avoiding paying the rent, receiving assistance, buying boats and cars at inflated prices right now, and still not paying the rent. And at some point, if you own that property, how would it feel? It's one thing if they're receiving some form of public assistance that's tax assisted and and they're keeping the heat on or the air conditioning on. That's been going on for years and years. But now to also be buying cars and boats instead of paying the rent, I don't know about that. I can't get behind that unless you can show me some evidence that you need, to not pay your rent. But if you can't pay your rent, why are you buying a car? Why are you buying a boat? I mean, it's excessive. And I just need a little more clarity on why that's a good thing. Uh, the cash register has been hit repeatedly during 2021. And let's not get along political lines here. I just know this, that as a guy that's in business, someone's got to pay for all of this. And I'm pretty sure that businesses are going to get hit hard with this tax. And I'm pretty sure that some people are going to pay for it in increased taxes. And I'm not convinced that the only people that are going to pay more tax are the people making more than $400,000. I mean, it's an interesting thought, but I think we're all going to pay more tax to pay for all the stuff going on right now. So I don't know. Maybe I should not. Well, I don't have any rent, but if I didn't, I'd still have a hard time not paying my rent, but going out and buying a boat. Car. Maybe I can make a case if you had to go to work, but if you're not working, then do you need the car? I'm just trying to sort this out because if I needed a car for work, then I'd be working. I would have enough money to pay my rent. Yeah, I'm a little fired up, but wouldn't you be? Or I don't know. Maybe I'm offending somebody right now that's not paying for their rent, not working, getting public assistance, and has enough free time in their hands to buy a boat. If that's the case, then maybe you could extend an invitation to me on your brand new boat, and let me enjoy the boat. Maybe that would be fair. So, at the very least, if you're fortunate enough to not pay your rent, not have to work, have a new car and a boat, you should invite everybody that doesn't have that. Maybe that would be the beginning of fairness. So, all right, I'm going to jump off the didn't pay my rent, got a boat thing, but it's real. Actually, I can't leave it alone. Who does that? There. Now I'm good. I'm gonna take a deep breath. And on the forbearance, let's talk about that piece too. We're all thinking, oh, okay, you haven't paid for your mortgage in all this time, and you're gonna get all this free money. I got to believe that those properties will not go into foreclosure. And if you're not paying your mortgage, you're going to pay it at some point. This is different than a not paying your rent thing. Because if you're not paying your mortgage, at some point, you're going to have to pay it back. And what we're seeing right now in a lot of closings is some really big payoffs. Because let's say you owe $100,000 on the house, you haven't paid like $20,000, like $1,000 for like 18 months or something like that. And then there's some fees go along with it. There might be an extra $20,000 in payoff. But because the prices in homes have gone up so much, there's still a lot of equity left in there. So if you didn't pay your mortgage for like a year and a half, it just gets tacked down on the back end of the loan. There's interest on there. The banks have worked it out. They've gotten some money to make that piece good. That's a little more palatable. Let's face it. if you had to pay back $20,000 and you're complaining about the closing table, I would suggest you just, look at the fact you didn't pay for your mortgage for 18 months. That's a pretty good deal. If you don't have to pay anything to live in your house and you get to sell it and make money, you should at least pay back, the payments and interest that you missed on. I think that's fair. And I think with the increase in prices, most people are walking away with some pretty good checks. And we're witnessing that. What comes next, I'm not too sure if they're going to buy again or if they can get another loan. That's to be sorted out. But at the very least, it's really keeping most properties from going into foreclosure because there's enough equity this time around that they can sell it versus, 2008 through 11 or 12 or 13 where nobody had any equity and couldn't sell and all those short sales. It's probably not happening this time. All right. So, yeah, a little fired up, but, let's talk about those SBA loans. Because for the most part, this is not PPP. It's not an idle grant. Idle grant, you just got the money, got to keep it. And if it was PPP, you had to spend a certain percentage on payroll, 75% of whatever they're pushing out there right now. And you can get that forgiven. But there was a EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And those are the ones where, let's say you got $10,000 for a small business that you own, and you started looking at the terms of what you could spend the money on, and let's say at a consulting business, and there's just aren't a lot of expenses. I guess your cell phone or your computer, but I guess you'd also, in a letter of law, have to actually, are you buying a new computer just for that one business, or a chair or a phone for just that one business? See, because it's blended, use it other places. What if you just have a lot of expense in a business and you got this $10,000 and it's a economic injury disaster loan to keep you in business? If there's no payroll, you can't pay it to yourself. So unless you have other people at the business that are also receiving money, if it was home-based, maybe you don't have any rent. You may not legitimately be able to spend any of that money. So let's just say hypothetically somebody has a consulting company, had the money for, about a year, and really just had minimal expenses that were 100% attributable to the business, and they didn't want to fudge anything. So they spent several months trying to call the government back, like, how do I give the money back? And believe it or not, you get cut off. Maybe it's a dead-end phone call. The person doesn't know. There's not a way to do it. But eventually you get through. And there's two things. There's the pay.web, there's a ca.web, a couple different places on the SBA site if you can navigate it and get the help that you need without, let's say getting disconnected. But eventually you find out that you got the $10,000 loan and you've been trying to pay it back for months, and in between running your business and paying your rent and things like that, maybe you just never got through to the right person to find out how to pay it off. And then you finally do, and you go to pay your 10 grand back, and you realize all that deferred interest on there was creeping in. So let's just suppose that if you got the money last year, you may pay back the $10,000 plus $400 or $500 in interest. So, what is the moral of the story? If you borrowed the money and you're not using it, can't use it, pay it back. Fight through it, because it's $1.03 a day is what I learned. What my friend learned. I'm just saying this for a friend. But what I know is that if you've had the money, it's been sitting there, and you legitimately couldn't use it, it's not doing you any good to have it. And if all the CPAs out there would say, you probably don't want to go out and buy a bunch of stuff that you don't need just to use up the money in the loan, because you still got to pay it back, and now you still owe $10,000 plus $1.03 a day, and you got a bunch of stuff that you don't need. So if it's legit, you need the SBA money, by all means, keep using it, make good on it. But in the event that it's just sitting there doing nothing, go to ca.web, go to SBA, pay back that money and not accrue any more interest that's going to set you back later on down the road. Hope you've had a good time with this. Yeah, I got a little fired up, but that's okay today. This is Ron Wojciechowski for the Black Hole of Real Estate.